has been more focused on understanding the individual needs, the individual things, more around an organization or maybe a firm or an individual, right? However, one thing we need to understand is that there are a lot of other factors in the economy that have a broader impact. So yesterday, while we were discussing a few questions, we understood that whenever we contemplate or whenever we look at understanding the comprehensive things, one of the important thing that we have to understand is the role of environment, right? And within the role of economic environment is the macroeconomic environment that plays a crucial role. Now, let us comprehend what we mean to imply by this. Now, when I say macroeconomic environment is that environment, right, which concerns the economy as a whole, or in other words, I can say it takes a look at the bird eye level of the economy. So if I have to view my whole economy as one, right, or if I'm taking a complete view of my economy, a bird eye view of my economy, I fall in the purview of macroeconomics. Okay. Now, the point that we are trying to understand here is that one thing that plays a crucial role are the factors in the macroeconomy, and of the macroeconomic factors that we are going to discuss today is inflation, right? Now, let us understand what is inflation, how it works around. I'll try to, to explain you the effects instead of, directly taking up what effects it has. I have taken a few examples, right, in the form of questions that can help you comprehend how things around us change when there is inflation in the economy, right? Now, the most important thing that we need to realize is that price stability is something that most of the economies of the world will aim at. Okay. Now, price stability implies that there is absence of inflation as well as absence of deflation, right? So, whenever the economy is free of inflation as well as deflation, we say that the economy is a price stable economy. Now, is it actually possible? Is it achievable? It's not possible because conditions in economics are not as ideal every time. Is it achievable? It is achievable to some extent, but how long or for what instance, that is not known. You can achieve price stability, but for a very short while, because economy is something very dynamic, and we have seen how economic factors, they change on their own, right? Even without the intervention of any external or internal forces, we know that the factors in economics are themselves self-balancing, right? Or they are self-changing. So price stability can be achieved. The longevity or the duration of price stability can be very, very less. And why economies of the world strive for price stability? Because price stability to some extent brings more stability to your economy, right? Now, there are two terms that are being used over here. One is inflation and the second is deflation, right? Now, let us understand these two terms, inflation and deflation. Now, inflation is a general increase in the average price level of various goods and services over a period of time within an economy, right? Now, if you compare, right, the prices of goods and services maybe 1 year back and the prices of goods and services today, you will see that there has been a steep rise in the price. Now, this is exactly what is inflation. Over a period of time, that is from the year 2022, which we are maybe considering the base year, and the year 2023, which is your current year, if you compare the prices of goods like in the grocery segment, if you pick up wheat, if you pick up vegetables, fruits, etc., you will find out that there has been a rise in the price of these goods and services, right? And what does it imply? It implies that there has, in this 1 year, been an inflation in the economy, which has led to the rise of these prices over a period of time. Deflation is exact reverse of inflation. If you observe that there is a decrease in the price level, so whatever the prices were in 2022, if the prices are lower in 2023, it means there is deflation because the average price level over a period of time for goods and services has decreased or come down, right? So price stability is when there is no inflation or deflation. Inflation is the general rise in price of goods and services, and deflation is the average decrease in the price level of various goods and services. Now, just think of a scenario. Now, if you were planning to buy the latest MP3 player, okay, and the price of MP3 players has increased by $10, and this price increase is happening each day, right? For example, you checked maybe 10 days back, and now you're checking every day for 10 days, and you're observing that for these 10 days, the price is rising by $10 each day. What might you do? Okay. Now, obviously, when as a consumer, I am looking at, the prices going up continuously or the prices rising continuously, I will first comprehend, why and how. And then I will try to understand that if the prices are rising, there could be two scenarios, right? One is if it has already crossed my affordability limit, I'm going to drop buying it, right? The second is in anticipation that since the price is rising every day, it is possible that if I don't buy it today, the price will go up further. What I'll do, I will go and buy it at a higher price today. Now, both these possibilities are equally applicable. However, when we say that if the prices for most goods and services are rising every month, people normally respond, by understanding and contemplating them buying as early as possible so that they save themselves from another day of rise of price. Now, understand another scenario. If you are planning to buy a new car, right, and the price of the car has fallen by $500 each day since the day you last checked the advertisement or visited the car dealer, what might you do? Now, for somebody, who understands how inflation and deflation works, in the first scenario, you know what I'll do? I will probably drop buying it. And in the second scenario, what I'll do, I will, immediately go and buy it at a lower price. However, a reverse scenario happens. When the price is increasing every day, you know in order to save themselves, that means tomorrow I know the price is going to rise by 10 more dollar additional, so I will go and rushly buy it today so that I save myself from rising price. So in inflation there is more buying. In the first scenario it is inflation, and in the second scenario, it is deflation. The price is falling down by $500 each day. Still, people will wait. Why? Because they will anticipate that if I wait, maybe in the next week, the price will fall further by $3,500, which is a big amount, right? So if price for most of the goods and services were falling every month, how would people respond? People would wait because they would anticipate that price will fall further. And in the first scenario, people will go into rush buying because they'll think that if they don't buy today, tomorrow they may have to pay more for the same product or service. Right? Now, just understand, okay, these are the two scenarios that we are trying to comprehend or we are trying to judge and we are trying to understand. Now, for yourself, okay, just for your own contemplation, I'll give you time to think, okay. Now, we have seen a scenario where we see that general price levels keep on coming down. Okay, say suppose you are checking, okay, so there's this great Indian festival sale that goes on, and you are observing that the product that you want to buy in the sale every day it is getting cheaper by some 2%, and the sale is going to last for 7 days. You may raise your hand. On the first day when you checked, it was say at $100. On the second day when you checked, you saw that the price has fallen by $1 additional, 1%, and it has come to $99. And you are seeing a trend on the third day also that there has been a fall of 1%. Now you still have 4 days in your hand till the time the sale is on. How many of you will buy it on the last day? You will wait till the seventh day and then buy it. I'm contemplating that all the people, all the 30 people who raised their hands, they would buy the product on the last day of the sale, contemplating that the price is falling each day. And on the last day, I will have an additional 1,11111%. On the seventh day, I will still have a discount in my hand. Okay. Now, a reverse scenario. Now you check the sale and the product that you wanted to buy is the cheapest on the first day. On the second day, when you check, you understand that the price has gone up by 2%. On the third day, you wait again. You feel that maybe there might be some error and they may revise the price, and you wait on the third day. And you check on the third day, the price has gone up by an additional 3%. How many of you will now wait to buy it on the last day? That you will wait till the seventh day to buy this product. Let me ask you the other question. How many of you will buy immediately on the third day as soon as you see that the price is going up almost every day? Great. Now, what has happened? As consumers, we know that when price increases, demand falls down. Law of demand, right? And when the price decreases, demand goes up. But during inflation and deflation, because of the anticipation or because of the speculation around prices, you will see people will buy more at higher prices when there is inflation, and people will buy less at lower prices in deflation because they expect the prices to fall down further. So, is this rational? It is still rational. We don't say that this is irrational behavior, or we don't say this is uneconomic behavior. This is your response to the external environment, right? This is how we as consumers respond to how external environment takes shape or it takes picture. Okay. Now, when I say external environment response, now when I'm knowing that they are increasing the price every day in the sale, on the last day I may have to pay actually higher than what I have calculated. Let me buy it today. Whatever will happen will happen. At least I will save myself from higher prices. That is the reason I bought today at high price. But for the lower prices, we become too optimistic. We feel that, okay, every day it's getting cheaper only. Today the onion is 5 rupee. It is possible tomorrow it may become 3 rupees kg. It may also be possible that it might become 2 rupees kg. Let me wait, right? This is what is happening when the prices are lower. My expectation as a consumer is optimistic that the prices will fall down further and I will get a better deal in the lower prices. Okay. Now let us try to match these columns. Okay. We have inflation, which signifies rising prices, and we have deflation, which signifies the lowering or fall in prices of general price level of goods and services. Right? Now match the column. The first one is people buy today rather than wait. Now you, from your own behavior, contemplate that during inflation or during deflation, are you going to wait or are you going to buy today? So you buy today rather than wait. Will this be a feature of inflation or deflation? Please classify for yourself so that you learn these concepts. Okay. How many of you say this is inflation? How many of you say this is a feature of deflation? That people will buy today rather than wait. What we just saw, when prices are rising, people become fearful that tomorrow it may become more costly. Let me buy it today and do with it. That is inflation. During inflation, people buy today rather than waiting. And in deflation, people wait to buy until tomorrow because they are positive and optimistic that tomorrow the prices will come down further. Okay. Now, if you compare it with the law of demand, this is not how law of demand says that consumer behaves. But when the conditions in the market change, why I've been emphasizing the fact that conditions in the market is changing to help you understand that everything in economics is not governed by one single method or one single formula or one single thought. you know there are multiple dynamic factors from within the environment that affect the way we take our decisions as consumers, right? Okay. Now, just understand, will people have less income to spend during inflation, or will people have less income to spend during deflation? Okay, let me give you some background on this and then you may be able to think it better. Why does inflation at the first place start? Normally, inflation starts because when your economy is flourishing, when your economy is doing well, most of the people have jobs, there is low unemployment. most of the people, businesses make a lot of money and they give out a lot of money to their people as employees. People have more purchasing power, and because people have more income, they do more buying. When demand goes up, you know, prices also go up in the conjugation to keep up with the pace in the demand. So, do you think in inflation people will have less income or in deflation? How many of you feel that because inflation is signified with a flourishing scenario? Inflation means your economy is doing good, and that is why general price levels are going up. Deflation signifies that somewhere your economy itself is not functioning well. There is more unemployment. People don't have money to spend. And because people don't have money to spend, uh, people wait for goods to get more cheap to be able to afford it. Because people are not buying, businesses are not making money. Because businesses are not making money, you know, employees are not getting paid handsomely. And again, this cycle of, lesser buying, lesser money, lesser income keeps going on during deflation. So, how many of you now say that people have less income to spend and therefore they will purchase less is a feature of deflation? And how many of you say that people have less income during inflation and therefore they are making less purchases? Understand? People have less income during deflation, because deflation means that overall the businesses are not doing well. When businesses don't do well, they don't pay people well. When they don't pay people well, people don't have money to spend. And again, because they don't have money to spend, they will do less purchasing. Less purchasing means less money for the businesses, right? Next is, it robs the purchasing power of people's saving. Is inflation robbing people or is deflation robbing people? Now, demand for goods and services continues to decline, as do prices. This is clearly a sign of deflation, right? And people continue to buy rather than wait as prices continue to rise. When prices continue to rise, it is obviously inflation, right? If wages don't rise at the same rate as the price, people can't buy as many goods and services as they could in the past. This is a feature which is when people are not making enough money and they are not able to spend enough money. That means they are not going to be able to afford that product. It leads to inflation, right? And uh, people and businesses have difficulty planning for the future. Now, this is a common feature of both inflation and deflation, because I don't know, in future the price can go up further, in future the price can even fall down further, right? And as a result of this, what can happen? As a result of this, sometimes, in the economic scenario, or uh, in the in the in the section where your economy is already doing well or flourishing, it can create a lot of burden on the way the people think. And people even take irrational decisions during high inflation or deflation phases. People tend to be irregular, people tend to go overboard with the way they make their decisions, and they can take wrong decisions in such scenarios. Okay, now let me take you to understanding how you comprehend inflation and deflation. Just keep 2 points in mind. When your economy is flourishing, doing well, businesses are doing well, they have more money, they give more money to people. When people have more money, people start buying more. Buying more creates more demand. When demand is high, price starts going up to keep pace with the demand. When prices start creeping up, it creates inflation in the economy. So inflation at a general level implies that the price of goods and services are rising. On the other hand, when there is deflation, right, businesses don't have money because people don't buy goods and services, people's purchasing power is low, and because they are not buying goods and services, as a result of this, businesses don't have money to give to their employees. The overall salaries are low. Because salaries are low, purchasing power is low. And because the purchasing power is low, the economy falls down further. That is deflation. Okay. Now, when an average price level is rising, why would people buy now instead of waiting to buy in future? I told you, during inflation, people take the decision of making their purchase today rather than waiting. But why do you think people do that? Right? It is very important to understand this. Why? Because they expect that in future the prices could go up more and it would become unaffordable for them. So it is better to buy it now when the price is lower than what it will be in future. Okay, so even at high prices during inflation, people buy goods and services because they fear that in future the prices could be much higher, and then it would be very difficult for them to be able to afford these goods and services. Right? So if you go by law of demand, when price is high, right, the demand should become lower. But here in inflationary scenario, when price is high, even then people buy more because they fear that future prices can be more, you know, higher, or future prices could be more difficult for them to be able to afford. Now, how does this response perpetuate the problem of inflation? Now, what will happen? Already the goods and services are costly, still people are buying them. It is going to create, further demand, and it will create more scarcity. When something becomes more scarce, the prices go up to the extent that it can become bidding price or auction sales also. When something becomes less, its automatic value, economic value goes up because of scarcity. So when people buy more during inflation, it can perpetuate the problem further because most goods and services will now become scarce, and when they become scarce, their prices will rise up further, right? So it will give the seller more power to charge higher or to charge more money for the same goods and services. Sometimes uncontrolled inflation on specific product category or services can even create a scenario like auction sales. Okay. Now, what happens if people's wages don't rise at the same rate or as fast as the price is rising? Now, I told you when economy is doing well, people have more money, salaries are more, income is high, somewhere it will create inflation, right? But still people are buying it at higher prices to save themselves from future rise in price. But there will be a stage when the price rise is happening very fast, but their salaries, their wages are not increasing at the same pace at the price of goods and services. Then definitely people will not be able to afford as many goods and services as they could in the past, right? They will have to give up on some of the goods or services. They may have to give up on the quality of the goods and services. They may have to give up on the quantity. Sometimes they may even have to give up on those goods and services which might not fall under their necessities or their important items. Okay. And that's how we say that things become unaffordable for people. Now, why do businesses and households have a difficulty planning for future expenditure during inflationary period? Now, I told you that in both inflation as well as in deflation, it is difficult for both the business as well as the buyer to plan. Now, why do you think it may be difficult, or why do we say that it might be very difficult for them to contemplate? Because I am uncertain what the future price is going to be, right? As a buyer, I don't know, right? What price may go up and how much of something I may need in the future. So what I'll do is I will purchase now as much as possible because the price is lower. And for businesses, why it is difficult? Because businesses do their economic order planning. Now, as per their economic order planning, they maintain certain stock of goods and services. But now, because of inflation, people have started to buy more. So their demand forecasting becomes difficult because they don't know that why, how, and for how long are people going to keep buying more goods and services. Okay, so it is a difficult planning phase for both the buyer as well as the seller. Now, how does inflation rob the purchasing power of people's saving? Now, if people save money and the price rises, the money they have saved won't buy as much that could today than in future. There is a principle in economics. I hope you all know that principle, that the future value of money is always lower than the current value of money. That the future value of money is lower than the present value of money, right? And during inflationary phase, what will happen? People know that the money that they're going to save is not going to buy them as much of goods and services in future as it can today, right? So in a way, inflation also negatively affects by robbing people of their buying capacities. Now, when the average price level is falling, why do people postpone their purchases? When deflation creeps in, why do people, I told you, people become optimistic. People think, okay, prices are coming down, so in future they will come down more. And in future, if I buy it at a much lower price, I will get a better deal than I'm getting today, right? They think that if they wait, the goods or service will cost even less than it is costing today. And because of that positivity, because of that optimism, right, they wait and postpone their purchases, right? So actually, in deflation, when prices are low, people are still not buying a lot because they are expecting the prices to go down further. Now, this is going to be problematic for the economy. Why? Let us understand how this can perpetuate the problem. When people are waiting to buy, like less number of goods and services will be sold today. Now, as a result of this, what will happen? Inventories will accumulate and prices will fall more. To make up for their demand, the businesses will have to reduce the price further to sell their goods and services. As a result of this, what will happen? The losses that they're going to make there, how are the businesses going to cover these losses? By laying off people, by giving lesser salary to people, by saving on whatever fixed costs they can, by maybe, wherever they had plans of expansion, they will not expand. Rather, they will start to contract their overall money. So why do business revenues fall during deflationary periods? Because when people are buying less, definitely the businesses have lower sales in goods and services, right? Because people are optimistic and they are waiting for the prices to fall further. Now, selling less and selling at a lower price, both will create a problem for the business revenues because the revenues will steeply fall down. And when the revenues will steeply fall down, right, businesses will start to show signs of recession. Why do businesses lay off workers? I hope by now you have understood the answer to this question, that why are there layoffs? Now, if people are not buying goods and services, if I am a business owner and people are not buying from me because they think I'm going to reduce the price further, I have to make up for the lost amount, right? Because I have to keep my business running. Otherwise, my business will shut down. Now, to keep my business running or to keep up the demand of my business, what am I going to do? I am simply going to save that money by maybe cutting down on the salary of the people or by altogether reducing the number of people I have so that when less people work for me, the less salary I pay, the less salary I pay, the more, predominant it is possible that I'll be able to cover up my costs. So when the revenues falls, businesses cannot afford to hire as many people as they could at the same wages. So either they must lower the wages or they may have to lay off people, any one of the two, or both, right? In the worst case scenarios, businesses do both. They lay off some people, and the people who are retained, they are paid less or they are not given any incentives or bonuses. Now, if fewer people are employed and all those who are employed are as such earning less, what happens to people's income and the amount of goods and services they buy? Automatically they are all going to come down. The income is going to come down. As a result of this, the amount of goods and services that they buy will also come down. So when their incomes fall, they buy fewer goods and services, and as a result of this, it will further worsen the situation for the economy. Economy will fall down further. Prices will fall even more because businesses will try to give discounts. They will try to hold sales. They will try to do a lot of I would say they would try to involve a lot of marketing techniques to sell off their goods and services, but they may not be able to succeed even then because the problem is people don't have the money to buy even at lower prices because people are out of job or because people are paid less. They as such don't have the money to afford even at lower prices, right? So inflation is a general upward movement in the price of goods and services in the economy, whereas deflation is a general downward movement in the price of goods and services in an economy. Now, if ideally by the nature of definition, deflation should be positive scenario and inflation should be negative. However, this is not true. Deflation definitely is a negative scenario. It is never going to be a positive scenario for the economy. Inflation, to some extent, is positive till the time it is controllable. If the inflation becomes uncontrolled, then inflation also is definitely a negative sign in the economy. If a nation's inflation rate is up to 2%, okay, up to 2% inflation, it means that the economy is doing excellent, right? Because zero inflation means that the economy is not growing at all. Inflation, in a way, is a sign that your economy is growing, but only up to 2% it is good. Anything beyond 2%, right, is from where the economy or the economic decision makers should start thinking. Okay, now let us segregate some factors in inflation and deflation, and let us understand how price level changes are affected as a result of these. Now, we know that in inflation, the purchasing power decreases because overall the goods and services are costly, so they may be unaffordable for me. Businesses can't plan for the future, right? Because even at higher prices, people are buying more. Now, if I'm a business person, I will think that when I keep my price low, people should buy more. However, in inflation, even at higher prices, because people feel that tomorrow things will become more unaffordable and they may not be able to, catch up with the demand, then they are still buying at higher prices. The cost of doing the business will overall increase in inflation. Why? Because I have to make more, I may have to employ more people, I may have to give more salary, I may have to spend more on raw material, I may have to do more contingency management, and that's going to increase my overall business cost. Consumers will start spending more rather than saving because they fear that if I save this money tomorrow, I may not be able to afford the product as such, and my money is going to lose its value in the future. So rather than saving, people will start spending. People may use their savings in such case to purchase jewelry, art, or other collectibles that might retain their value in an inflationary period rather than place money in the savings bank. This is very important. And this is also a way people look at curbing inflation. Now, I know inflation is high, and if I even spend on consumer durables or groceries at a high price, it's not going to take me anywhere in future. However, when I'm anticipating that in future the prices will be higher further and my purchasing power is going to fall further, I will put most of my money in instruments which will give me some return in future. So maybe spending on jewelry, spending on art or other collectibles that will retain their value, or that may have an uptrend or a rise in their value. So you will see during inflation, the demand, overall demand for gold, artwork, collectibles, all those things which are, seen as valuable or luxury items, they will go up. The prices definitely will increase, and people don't save because people feel saving is not going to save them. So people will either invest into gold or other instruments that can save them from inflation, or people will spend that money into buying goods and services because they know they'll not be able to afford to buy it in future. So I know if refrigerator is going to be more costly tomorrow, I may not be able to afford it. Let me spend my money on buying refrigerator. Let me spend my money on buying washing machine, all other consumer durables, because I know tomorrow they'll be costlier and then it will be totally unaffordable for me to be able to, match the pace of the rising prices. During deflation, the purchasing power increases because, as such, the goods and services are cheaper. Businesses don't generate enough revenue to pay workers because when purchasing power increases, the prices fall, people become optimistic, they don't buy, they think the price will fall down further, and when price will fall down further, maybe then I will buy. And as a result of this, in the current time, businesses are not making enough money to pay the workers. And business also can't plan for the future because as such, right now only people are buying very less, and businesses don't know for how long people will not buy from them. Consumers normally they postpone their spending, right? Consumers keep on saving money that wow, prices are falling down, they will fall further, let me hold and let me not spend my money. As a result of this, the cost of borrowing will increase. So, when deflation is there, you will see to incorporate more purchasing or to encourage or motivate people to buy goods and services to bring the economy out of deflation. A lot of schemes will start where the credit rates will also fall down. And when the credit rates will fall down, what will happen? The cost of borrowing will be lower during deflationary period, but as soon as the deflation will be over, the overall cost of borrowing is going to be very, very high. Now, when I don't have a salary, I will have to rely on a loan, right? This was a situation you must have seen around Corona. A lot of people who lost their jobs, a lot of businesses that went out of business, they had to look at the option of taking loans, right? As a result of more loans, the demand for loans went up. So initially, the rate of interest were less, but as soon as the demand started to increase, the rate of interest on borrowing also went up, and the overall cost of borrowing started to increase. Now, other things it can create is it can lead to price instability. Both these situations can make it very difficult for financial decisions of future, and it will affect the spending behavior either negatively or positively. It may create a situation of some people being losers totally or some people being winners. Those businesses that are doing businesses in more I would say jewelry, collectibles, or such thing. During inflation, they become winners. They don't lose. Others become losers, right? And vice versa. Now, quickly let us understand the types of inflation, and let us first see the quantitative view. Okay, okay. Now, the first type of inflation from the quantitative point of view is creeping inflation, right? Now, over here, the rate of inflation does not I'm so sorry, a slight change. The rate of inflation does not exceed the rate of production growth. That means the growth in the economy is more than the rate of inflation, right? This is an ideal, a good situation. Why? Because it is showing that your economy is flourishing. The rate of flourishment of the economy is faster than the rate of rise of inflation. Creeping inflation is normally under 10%, right? And this type of inflation up to 2%, it's a very good scenario. Any economy having inflation up to 2 to maximum 3% is positive. From 3 to 5%, uh, till the time it is able to match your other, interests, other investment, if it is, if it is being surpassed by those interest rate, it is still acceptable. So if you look at, the rate of production growth, it's normally at 12%. So up to 10% is still fine because economy is producing at a better rate than the inflation is existing. From the creeping inflation, the second stage that starts is known as galloping inflation. Now, here the rate of inflation exceeds the rate of production growth. Maybe your production growth still stands at 12%, but the galloping inflation can range from anything between 10% to 100%. Over here, what will happen? Money is going to lose its purchasing power, and people will not hold money with them. People will try to buy as many goods and services as they can because they know that money will not be able to save them in the future since money has lost its value, right? Money as an instrument now becomes a mere means of acquiring something more valuable. So money becomes less valuable, goods and services become more valuable. During galloping inflation, the rate of interest can be between 10% to 100%. The worst situation, as per the quantitative point of view, is hyperinflation. Okay. Now, here, the inflation is totally out of control, right? A condition in which the prices increase rapidly and the currency continuously loses its value. Hyperinflation is a rate which is over 100% per year. Over in this situation, prices as well as wages are extremely erratic. Money has no value, and the barter trade emerges, right? Barter means exchange of goods for goods or services for services. Example is Germany after First World War and Hungary after the Second World War. A more recent example I can give you is of Zimbabwe. You know, it was so bad, hyperinflation was so bad in Zimbabwe that, for 1 rupee, I mean, in rupees term, I can tell you, but okay, I'll make it more standard. So for $1, you know, people could buy as much as, 1 lakh of Zimbabwean currency. So somebody who went with $1 in Zimbabwe at that point of time possessed the purchasing power of close to 1 lakh Zimbabwean currency. So I'm sure you can understand hyperinflation kills your economy, right? It makes your currency lose its value with respect to all other currencies in the world. Money actually becomes a piece of paper and nothing more. And people prefer to retain barter because money might no longer save them from their from their price, right? So what people do, people will put aside money. There have been situations where people have set fire on money. They have, put it down the drains because it was almost hyperinflation and money was not saving them from any calamity or any possibility of bringing them out of their poor state. So what people did, people started to make goods and exchange goods with others. So say rice for wheat, or maybe say somebody manufacturing television, somebody manufacturing some other household item, making it for each other. So people become more, open to accept the barter trade in such a situation. Other types of inflation can be open inflation, right? Where if the economic imbalance is accompanied with rising price level, right, it is known as open inflation. Now, as such, the economy is in imbalance. And this imbalance is also accompanied by a general rising level of price of goods and services. Right? Now, here, why is it called open inflation? Because what is happening when economy goes up, prices also go up at the same rate. When economy, stops progressing, the prices also stop rising, but they are still at a higher or risen level. And to fall down or come back, you don't know how much time it may take for the economy to stabilize. Next is suppressed inflation. Now, if state authorities damp or even stop the rise of price level by administrative means, it is known as suppressed inflation. Now, post COVID, government did exercise some of the policies under suppressed inflation. What they did, they will obviously make use of their own legal systems, their own political setups, their own funds, their own treasuries to make sure that inflation is controlled. Now, such situation is normally followed by existence of scarce commodities, shadow economy, etc. Now, in such cases, the provision of necessities such as agricultural product is set by the government by introducing price control commodities. So what government does is government will start marking the necessity goods, and they will start, pricing, setting of prices on those. Price control, this is called, that nobody can sell onion for more than 25 rupees kg, come whatever be. So any seller, the highest price that they can take for onion, 1 kg onion is 25 and not more. This is government's way of suppressing the inflation or controlling the inflation. Hidden inflation is when government imposes strict controls to curb the price inflation. The producers are forced to sell the products at the prices required, and producers cannot sell the commodity at higher prices to get profit, therefore lower on the quality of products. Now, I'll give you a simple example. I don't know if I've shared this with you before. Okay, but if 10 years down you bought a Cadbury 10 rupee bar, I'm sure you could have bought a big 10 rupee Cadbury bar. Today, when you go to the shop and give him a 10 rupee note and ask for a Cadbury, what is the size of Cadbury that you get? Much smaller, right? The size is much smaller. And since the size is much smaller, what has Cadbury done? Cadbury has not increased the price on the 10 rupee product. It has reduced the quantity of that 10 rupee product because somewhere psychologically you are still spending 10 rupee on Cadbury. So it still sounds that I can afford a Cadbury because it was 10 rupees 10 years back and it is still 10 rupees. But if you check the quantity, it has become less than half of what it was 10 years back. Now, this is the hidden impact of inflation. What producers do is they will lower the quantity, they will lower the quality of the product, because they know now government will not let them not let them earn more money. So what they can do is they will sell lower quality goods, right, to maintain their profits, or they will lower the quantity of the goods to maintain their profits. Somewhere this is an indication that inflation is hidden and the economy is still not doing the best it can. Okay. However, like I said, generally creeping inflation level is an inflation that most of the economies will welcome, because it is a sign that your economy is flourishing. No inflation means that somewhere you need to think that maybe your economy is not growing. Okay. So we just looked at inflation and deflation, which are two commonly used terms in macroeconomics. These two phenomena are experienced by almost every country in the world, and it can be said that inflation and deflation are two sides of the same coin. At least one of them will exist at one point of time. Inflation is referred to as a situation when the price level of goods and services are higher, which leads to decreasing the purchasing power of the economy. Or in other words, it also decreases the buying power of money. On the other hand, deflation is the exact opposite of inflation. In this condition, the price level of goods and services decrease exponentially, which can result in an increase in the buying power of money. So money becomes more powerful during deflation, but still businesses don't make as high profits as they could.